Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome back. Welcome back to the PorscheCooled Podcast. 70th episode today. It's our 70th episode. Can't believe it. When I started this podcast way back in, I think it was August 2019, I never ever thought that we could talk this long. I've been helped along the way, of course, by Steve. Steve is invaluable to this podcast. He's my mate in Sydney. He owns a GT3. He's owned air-cooleds. You've known him before. He's coming on shortly. He's in Sydney, Australia, and he's about to join me by Zoom again for this episode. Yeah, so 70 episodes. So I just want to say before we get into this, and I'll say it when Steve comes online too, but thank you very, very much. Thank you for the support. Thank you for motivating me, I guess, in a way, to keep talking with Steve, to keep talking with all the other owners. It doesn't take much. Your guys' comments, your guys, everything that all those guys, everyone, all of you who've been reaching out to me, I should say, I really, really appreciate it. It really does. I'm lost for words. It really is fantastic, the support the podcast has had. So thank you very much. 70 episodes is a bit of a milestone, I reckon, for any podcast to talk for, most of the episodes are over an hour. And I couldn't have done it, like I said, I couldn't have done it without Steve. Couldn't have done it without the owners who have been on the owner's story so far. Every week I'm having a lot of you guys contacting me. You know that I will eventually get back to you. I do always answer on Instagram if you send me a private message. It's always the best way to get me through PorscheCooled, through the Instagram PorscheCooled. But yeah, so anyway, let's get Steve. Let's talk about this 70 episodes of PorscheCooled Podcast. I'll be back in a second. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Steve is here. Hi, Steve.
Hello, mate. Hello, everyone. How you going?
Hello, everyone. I never say hello to everyone. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, it's a bit twee, isn't it? Maybe edit that one out.
I should be more polite. No editing on this podcast. I don't cut anything out, just so people know. Someone asked me that when I did one of the owner stories. I say, do you edit things out? I said, not really. I said, I like to just, not really, because...
Do a Zuckerman then. Fuck you, motherfuckers.
You can't swear. Actually, someone sent me a message about that. I think it was Michael, actually, who I'm going to get onto a second, who's a new Patreon member. He said he likes how we just have the casual swear words and we're not swearing a lot. So thanks for using the worst swear words in the world, Steve.
Oops.
Now
Sorry,
Apple,
Michael.
Now Apple will flag us and we'll be like banned from Apple Podcasts or something. Because whenever you swear or if you're talking like that in a podcast, you actually have to put the podcast has explicit language and whatever. So I have ours as being a clean podcast. It's not a dirty podcast. No, I think it's fine.
I guess you'd be editing for the first time.
No, somebody asked me, and I don't know who this was, and they're probably going to remember when they're listening to this. Had an owner stories, and someone said, do you just record it? Do you stop and start, or do you just record it in one go, or do you cut out a lot of things that we talk about? And I said, it always works best on an owner stories. And if you're thinking of contacting me for an owner stories, please do. There is a bit of a lineup though for people at the moment because I'm slowly getting through them. I can't do any more than a couple of weeks. It's just too much work for me.
Tons of work.
I've lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Oh yeah, someone. And I said,
Whether
no, it actually
you cut things. Yeah.
Yeah, and owner stories. It actually works better. It does actually work better, Steve, when it's just a continual flow. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You just talk for the hour and it goes very quickly and it's just a continual flow. So that's how that works. But welcome back.
Just in case anyone's interested though, because, but you still, in terms of editing, you still actually kind of cut pauses and the ums and ahs and my neighbours singing and all that. So like that's where a lot of the work goes into. Like if these chats literally kind of last, say, an hour and a half, and when they're published, they're like an hour and 15 kind of thing. You've got to listen to it like at least once or twice in terms of kind of cutting it all up and tweaking levels and stuff like that.
Exactly. But, okay, to do, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, and you know this, but a podcast we do is about an hour, but we talk before and after, so it's probably like an hour and a half, sometimes more. And then the editing and then the promotion once the podcast is up. So it worked out that a podcast it takes me about 4.5 hours per podcast in my time to put a podcast up. So that's the recording of it, the editing of it, and also the half an hour or so time spent on Instagram. So it's about 4 hours, I guess, with recording and editing. But an edit, as Steve said, after this is done.
Big effort.
Yeah, and after this is done, especially today because this goes up early on Patreon, to get it up on Patreon one day earlier means I have to, it literally takes me 2 hours to edit a podcast because it's only an hour long, but you're cutting bits out, you're adjusting the sound, you're doing things. Some are quicker when I'm not doing as much talking and it's more on one side, the conversation's on one side, Steve. It tends to be quicker. But yeah, we do cut out ums. I do cut out pauses. I mean, sometimes with Zoom doesn't play very nicely, and there's weird sounds and things like that. Some things I can't fix up. Some things I have to leave.
I must admit though, like I'm assuming that's why a lot of the social media influencer world went from YouTube to podcast, because the amount of effort that would go into kind of filming a YouTube video would be like a lot more than 4 hours for, like what a 10 minute YouTube video, I'm assuming would take like quite a few hours to kind of produce, to film, edit, all of that sort of stuff.
Well, the way I do YouTube
Depending
videos,
on what it is.
I'd have to say I'd rather it's easier to do a video. It's easier to do a YouTube video.
Is it?
It's easier for me to edit on Final Cut Pro and do the editing and get the video up. I find it easier than a podcast. I think a podcast is harder because you're always fretting over the sound on podcast because of the fact that it is a podcast. When a YouTube video, I mean, I guess it depends on how much production you do, but
sort of. And in my head, I guess when I say YouTube video, I was sort of thinking more like something where you're in the car, you might sort of do a couple of exterior bits, you might be talking in the car and all of that sort of stuff, and as opposed to something where you might just be in your apartment with like 2 camera angles or something like that.
I don't know. I mean, I still think if you do an in-car video and you're sitting in the car, and I've said this once before, that if you've got the GoPro on and you do a couple of outside shots when you're parked and you do, stick a GoPro on the back for one bit of it, it's pretty easy to talk for 10 minutes in the car. You know what I mean? The hard bit is actually to get the video down to shorter, I guess, because I don't know. I'm getting a little bit bored with YouTube at the moment, and I haven't been watching as much because I'm finding all these channels are getting really stale. And I am actually still finding, and I know you probably don't agree with me this too, but I find this. I mean, obviously the normal guys who are just buying cars all the time, you know what I mean? I find it a little bit boring. And then I find the production of a lot of these videos a little bit too much. I find that they're just a little bit too much.
What do you mean by too much? As in too much like a sort of TV show, or?
Too many, I don't know. I find some of them, the effects they use a little bit much. I think some of them, they're just going a little bit too much. And then
it depends on who and what, I suppose.
Yeah, but in general, for me, I think a YouTube is quicker. I mean, obviously, if you're just doing if you're doing a tech YouTube video, you're doing a watch one, you can knock it out pretty quickly.
Yep.
It depends on how fussy you are.
It's funny. Well, like last week, I think, as you know, I sort of shot what would be sort of termed a TV ad, like a 30-second TV commercial, and that was for 30 seconds worth of kind of film. We basically shot like the entire day. We had to cram it in. It was like 9 till 6:30.
But that's
so that kind of gives you an idea of what happens. Well, it wasn't. Wasn't really. It wasn't sort of like a proper kind of old school sort of TVC, but that's sort of what it takes to kind of do something like that. So
so a whole day of footage, and then you've got to edit it down to 30 seconds. That's when it becomes tricky.
Full on, yeah.
That's when it becomes tricky. That's why, I mean, I think sometimes, and when you're doing YouTube, and I think people starting off on YouTube, I think the worst thing you can do is get too much footage when you're starting. Because I think you just find it, especially when you're editing, and if you're not familiar with editing, and I know some people still edit in iMovie, and I don't know how they do it because it's so limited, it's so limiting. You have to edit in Premiere, or you have to edit in Final Cut. I mean, iMovie is just, I don't know, for me it's just so painful.
Too primitive.
It's too primitive, it's too basic. You can't do anything. But you know what I mean though, Steve? If you're starting off and you get so much footage, break it down into 2 videos, break it down into 3 videos. Don't just try not to use it all in one, because you'll just confuse yourself. You know what I mean?
Without getting too technical, editing is a real craft. It's a massive sort of thing unto its own. Like I've worked with a couple of amazing editors, and it's like, I had no idea how you managed to tell that story with those kind of pictures and those takes and all of that sort of stuff so succinctly. That's kind of like what advertising is about. Like it's sort of like the craft of trying to condense something into like, you know, bite-sized chunks for people to kind of consume, as opposed to
and without
content,
losing
like,
the message,
which is
right?
long form.
Without losing the message, which is the hardest part. The hardest part, making sure people still get that takeaway. People still have that thing in their head that you want them to have, isn't it?
Yeah,
and that's where the art comes in. That's where Steve is very good. Everybody.
No, not me. It's not me. I'm nowhere to say.
Anyway. What was I going to say? So I don't know. I think YouTube videos are easier. I think podcasts are difficult. I know a lot of people are starting up podcasts. Mark, who was on Owner's Stories, Mark and Cars, who's got a YouTube video, he sent me a message yesterday, I think, or the day before. He's started a podcast, I think, with a friend of his, you know, and it's not easy. It really isn't easy. And I think when people start doing these things, and I think the hardest thing about YouTube, and if anyone's listening to the podcast who wants to get into talking about Porsches or talking about watches or talking about whatever you're interested in, the hardest part is everyone keeps saying it is a monster that you create. It is a monster that you have to keep feeding. It is a monster that you have to keep making content. And anyone can start a podcast, but to keep doing it for 10, 20, 30, 100, 200 episodes is hard. And that's when people drop off. And it's also people that go on YouTube and think they're going to get 1 million subscribers or 100,000 subscribers and make, you know, so much money each month. It doesn't happen. It's very slow. There are lucky ones, but it doesn't happen that quickly. And you have to just, keep persevering. And YouTube, you really do need to bring out. And I've been watching videos on, I'll just say investing, you know what I mean? Digital currency investing videos on YouTube. And there's so many of them, Steve. I didn't realize how saturated the market is. And these people, they're like, some of them are like car salesmen.
Views, though?
They're like car
So are
salesmen.
there massive views on it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like in views in hundreds of thousands kind of thing?
Not hundreds of thousands, but the subscribers, the people that are subscribing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
Like they're 200,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, and people are saying how they're, you know, some of these guys are doing more than one video a day. Though. Yeah. They're putting up one guy put up 2 videos in the space of like 2 hours. It's like, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy what people are doing. But that's what YouTube is about.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting that, like in the car world, or like probably more from you because I've never kind of done YouTube and all that sort of stuff. I don't know anyone else that does it. But in terms of kind of numbers, when you've sort of said to me that you get a lot more views when you do tech and watches than you do with Porsches.
Absolutely.
I find that kind of interesting. And then I also find it interesting. Well, I made an assumption that if you're going to talk about like a niche group of car enthusiasts, that Porsche would probably be quite high. So I can't imagine what, you know, like a Alpine kind of podcast or channel, like in terms of what sort of numbers they would kind of draw. Like, I guess pretty hard to turn it into a legitimate kind of full-on sort of living, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but then you look at Doug DeMuro and you see what he's got. You know what I mean? You look at his views and
different though. That's not one make.
Yeah, then you look at straight pipes. Yeah, true, it's not one make, is it? No, look, you know, tech videos, I think my highest video is something to do with GoPro, and I think it's like 140,000 views at the moment or something like that. Right. 140,000. Yep. And then watch ones that I did a year ago at 40,000, 45,000 or something. Like, I don't look at them all the time, and then I go back and look at them and go, wow, how did it get so high? And some of the ones I've done, there's one video, and I'm not going to mention which one, that took me literally no time to make. Like, I made it so quickly. I cannot tell you how quickly I made it. And it's probably had the most comments, the most feedback, and not all negative either, of all the videos I've done. And it was literally about, headphones. But it just somehow it must have got spread somewhere. And it was just, at one point there, it was crazy. I was getting, so many comments every day, like so many people commenting on this video. It's just weird. It's just very, very weird.
It's a very strange world. I don't really understand it, but it sounds like the people that kind of work in it can't really predict it as well. When you listen to Matt Farrer and all those guys, doesn't matter how studious you kind of get about it. Like, I think you kind of get to a point where obviously you do okay, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they know exactly how to predict what sort of rates well or doesn't rate well.
Yeah, and he's a great example actually, because even that conversation he was having with Larry, I always forget the guy's last name, the MO New York City guy, and he
Casilla,
was like
yeah.
he had some live chat with him, podcast with really bad sound where it was all out of sync. That podcast, and he just couldn't believe how many views that he had on his videos, that MO New York City had on his videos, and it was actually you could see it was starting to annoy him, like why are our videos this bad? And he was looking at Zach, why are our videos that bad? Because it's like that. You think, what am I doing wrong? How are you getting, 3 million views in a week? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's well known. Smoking Tire is well known, but his views don't always match that. His views are not always that high, I've noticed on some of his videos.
I think that's just because like car enthusiasts are probably, it's not as prolific as like tech stuff. Well, I'm a little bit surprised that watches are kind of that much more popular than sort of cars, but
If you were doing a YouTube channel, you need to really, I don't do it the best way because you really should just pinpoint one thing. I like to have a variety of things. I've always liked to have that variety. You know what I mean? But if you're doing one thing, do a tech video, do a tech YouTube channel, do a watch YouTube channel. If a watch YouTube channel, it will work really, really well.
Is it?
Or do a crypto YouTube channel. They're the three. I reckon. But to me, they're the three at the moment that are the ones that are. And I think it's watches and crypto actually. Watches and crypto is the thing on YouTube at the moment. Yeah, it seems to be. Anyway, back to today's episode. I did say in the beginning, Steve, this is number 70. This is our 70th episode. I can't believe we're at 70. It seems crazy. And I said in the intro, I can't believe how we can talk for this many episodes. We actually got to 70 episodes, which is...
That's what my wife reckons too. It's like, how on earth do you keep talking about stuff? It's
like,
I don't know.
Yeah, and Tasha says the same to me.
Kind of do.
For an hour, how do you do it? You guys are still enjoying us, so we'll keep doing it while you're enjoying listening to us.
We think you are.
The feedback is great. No, I get feedback. The feedback seems to be, good. Mm-hmm. But it's crazy that we could do 70 episodes. I just still can't believe it. But just back onto, I just want to mention a couple of things before we get into the chat, deep into the chat, Steve, deep into the chat. Apple ratings and reviews. Thank you to everyone who, when I did the shout out, I noticed the numbers go up and people are giving us star ratings, Steve's, and there was, I think, one or two. I think there was one review from 997 Melbourne. So thank you for the review, whoever 997 Melbourne is. That was on Apple Podcasts Australia. Unfortunately, I only see
what they drove.
Yeah, 997. I'm not sure who that is. Maybe I do know them, but if you left that review,
where they live.
Thanks for that. Patreon. I changed it slightly. I did actually added a different membership tier, and I added a higher membership tier to the thing. And basically, it to be really honest with everyone, it's just giving us extra support. It doesn't provide any extra benefits. It's just double the amount. So I have added an extra tier. We had a new member to that tier during the week, and that was actually before I get into the new member, we had Mac. I don't know whether last week I did a shout out to Mac M. Did I do a shout out to a Patreon?
Yeah, I thought you did.
I did? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember, and I didn't have time this morning to re-listen to the podcast to find out. But Mac M was last week, so thank you, Mac M. If I thanked you already, I'll thank you again. And the new member for this week was Michael. Michael's from San Francisco. He's a longtime Porsche enthusiast. So thank you for joining, Michael. And he shared I won't share his Instagram on the podcast because I'm not sure if he wants me to share it. But he's into Porsches. He's a Porsche enthusiast, and so he joined the podcast and enjoyed it. He's the guy that said, he likes how we don't swear all the time, and it's just the occasional curse word coming in. Normally from Steve, actually, because I usually don't swear.
You don't until I screwed it up. Because I remember asking you right at the beginning, it's like, can I talk like I normally talk? Can I swear? And you sort of said, you can, but I don't know. I just slowly coming out of my shell, I think.
In episode 70.
Yeah.
PorscheCooled owner stories, another good one. And I know there was a slight issue with the sound. I couldn't fix it completely. I think it's okay, but there was a slight issue with the sound. I don't want to sort of dwell on it, but there was a slight issue. That was Amir from LA. Amir was really interesting because Amir has two 911s, both cabriolets. which he enjoys thoroughly. He bought his first one, which was the 997.2, Steve, the black one. And then he bought a Glacier White 998, 993. The Instagram I put on the notes, which I gave to you, is not his Instagram. His Instagram is at ARKUHL. It's a new Instagram. Amir sent that up basically, I think, to contact me to set up the owner stories. So go over to his Instagram, have a look, and give him a follow. Get his numbers up a little bit there. He does his own maintenance. Listen to the episode, though. Everyone should listen to the episode because it is pretty good. He does his own maintenance. He talks about the difference between the 997.2 maintenance and the 993 maintenance, Steve. He also explains how the 993 is a lot harder. He didn't say that 997 was... Yeah. He didn't tell me the 997 was easy, but it's easier than the 993. But he's very... analytical. He's very planned. He does his research before he does the work. He plans it out. He works out what he has to do, and then he does the work. But he does all of his own maintenance on both the cars. And he lives in LA, and he's close to all those great roads in LA, so he's got great roads at his doorstep. That's why he loves the Cabriolet. He loves the Cabriolet, the sound. I think the 997.2 has an exhaust on it. I can't remember what it was again. X-pipe on the 997. And the 993's got a Fister as well. And his son wants him to get a Fister Stage 3 or something for the 993, which he hasn't done yet, but I think he's thinking about it. So that was
Do
another...
it. Do it.
Is that what you had, the Fister Stage 3?
What did I have? No, I had something done locally that was a Fister style model. What's the other one? The Gunderhack? They're very similar things. I had that, plus I had an X-pipe, which got rid of the cats. So my 993, by the time I was done with it, was incredibly loud, but it sounded cool.
Steve likes his cars loud. Don't you, Steve?
I do. I do.
Likes to wake up the neighbours, likes to rattle those windows of the morning.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's a great sounding car, 993, with an exhaust, so...
How much is the...
I understand.
How much is the Carrera GT at Dutton's? There's a Carrera GT. Dutton's is in Melbourne. If people who don't know, it sells a lot of Porsches, a lot of expensive cars, Ferraris, Porsches, rare cars. How much was it? Did it have a price on it?
Michael, if you have to ask, then clearly you cannot afford. It's his price on asking.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I reckon that it would be the last Carrera GT that came up in Australia in GT Silver was for sale at, it could have been Scuderia Graziani, I think. I did see one and it was 2.2.
Whoa, really?
Yep.
What would they have cost?
I only know US prices. They were $450,000 US. They dropped down to half of that based on Jay Leno's video that he was talking about, and now they're at $1 million US.
Because there wouldn't have been that many delivered to Australia. They're left-hand drive cars. You can't. Can you register it?
Only left-hand drive. I'm not sure how you would register that. I know that guy on YouTube, the Australian guy, the muscle guy, I don't know his name.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Supercar Advocates.
Yeah.
He had one, and he was driving it on the road, so he must be able to drive it. Because he picked it up from Porsche Willoughby and he was driving it around.
Yep. The car's nice though. I'm just looking at it on Dutton's. It would be a dream car to own. So
yeah, and it sounds amazing. The Jay Leno one sounds amazing. I mentioned that before.
Just the sound of it is kind of incredible. That V10. Anyway.
What's the exhaust on your mate's GT3? Has he got an exhaust on his car?
Yeah, I crawled underneath it to kind of have a look. I think it looks like a Fab Speed to me. Like, because a Soul exhaust, I'm pretty sure there's like tons of Soul logos all over it, and I couldn't see anything like that. It looked like a Fab Speed.
Okay.
It sounded pretty good. I was quite surprised at how compared to my Sharkworks style exhaust, his was considerably louder than that. So
right. Has he had any? Has he had a service done on his car yet?
Yeah, he just so his car came with a whole bunch of sort of track bits, like an extra set of wheels and a seat and a harness bar and bits and pieces. He finally got that, so he was quite pleased with that. he discovered that the car's got spacers on it, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
He likes the look of spacers, but I suspect, like I remember on my 993, I had some Rook wheels which had some funny offsets, which I didn't really realise it at the time when I had it fitted. But when I went back to kind of the factory turbo wheels, the car handled so much better. So I sort of told him that, like, I'm not quite sure about sort of really wide offsets on line 11.
Right.
But yeah, he took his car in for a service with a different kind of indie who I'd heard of in Sydney. What's it called? Pit Exchange.
Never heard of them. I've never heard that company before.
I have. Andre at Pit Exchange. Car's still there, like he's kind of just working his way through it, but basically confirmed that the car was really good, like, no major kind of things, but he's just kind of, doing what I would do too, which is just have like a full service done, change out the plugs, all the fluids, all of that sort of stuff. He's getting the suspension just sort of reset.
Is he getting them to check the coolant lines? Did you mention that to him?
Yeah, I mentioned to him. It's funny, after the last podcast that we kind of went through, like things that go wrong on previous one, 997, it just sort of spiked my memory to kind of mention it to my mate, and he sort of said, yeah, he should kind of ask the mechanic to kind of keep an eye out for it too. So it sounds like the car's clean. It's all really good. It's just sort of, he's working his way through it and just sort of making it just so.
Right.
I actually did remember there was one other little thing. This might not be that interesting, but I read a lot on Renlist that 997.1 GT3s come standard with an LSD, a limited slip diff in the back.
Right.
But apparently they're not particularly durable and they kind of wear quite quickly. But I've never kind of interrogated, I've never asked Autohouse like what condition my LSD is in.
Oh, okay.
I suspect I just don't drive the car hard enough because I wouldn't sort of really be sliding or kind of breaking traction in the rear to kind of really notice the difference, whether it did function or didn't function.
But what's the lifespan of them supposed to be? Is there any information readily available that the lifespan of the LSD?
Not long. I think, like, particularly if you track your car, when you kind of just look it up on the Renlist forums, people that track their car just sort of say that the LSD kind of gives up pretty quickly.
I wonder how you know if it's gone, though. How do you know? What are the telltale signs?
I know that, like, I think you jack your car up, and if you sort of try to spin one wheel, they should kind of spin independently, is it? Together. Oh, geez, I'm going to get this wrong, so I'm not going to actually say it out loud. I sound like a complete tool. But yeah, like, there are ways of kind of figuring it out. But anyway, I mentioned that to my mate because I was just kind of curious to see if his car was going to, if the mechanic picked up anything with his limited slip diff as well.
All right.
Diff.
Good point.
Yeah. So, anyway.
What was that? And then we saw, Steve sent me a link to an article, 10 collector cars you should watch in 2021. And one of them was the Daily Porsche. Is that what he called it? The Daily Porsche?
Yeah, what was it? Is it classic? It's on classicdriver.com, which I think is English, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
The journo that sort of wrote the article, he himself actually invested in a 997. He sort of rated that as one of the cars that they anticipated going to appreciate, I suppose.
Yeah, the perfect British daily driver, the Gen 1 Porsche 911 997 3.6, editor-in-chief, Jan. I'm just reading the basic paragraph here. But basically exciting and so much value for money. The 997 in all variants is a hot ticket to pure driving experience that nothing else can compete with for the price. So that's kind of relevant when we're talking about 997s last week, about what not to like about the 997. So as a daily Porsche, this is what the guy reckons is the pick. The Gen 1 997 Carrera 3.6 base model.
Do you reckon the price is on the rise? Have you been keeping an eye out?
I haven't been keeping an eye out that much. I sent a message. Did I mention the 996 that came through on car sales last week? I don't think I did. I think it came out after the podcast. A 996 came through on the email message from car sales in Australia, the car site, and it was a Targa actually, and it was in blue. It was almost 200,000 kilometers, full tan interior, tan steering wheel, everything, not well looked after, for almost 80,000, 79,990, 80,000 Australian dollars, which was really, really expensive. I sent it to Greg actually at First Flat 6. If anyone wants information about 996s, Greg has the curated service, concierge sort of service, curated service about 996s. Greg really is the man to go to. He's the guy. If you want a 996 guy, honestly, he knows a lot more than me. I sent that to him, and he thought it was very high. But he was saying that prices in the US were going up as well. But I just mentioned that one episode I mentioned, I think it was in an owner stories. I asked someone if they're going to get the 0.1 or the 0.2 996 GT3. It could have been Ryan actually in one of the previous owner stories. I think it was Ryan actually. The 996.1 GT3 wasn't available in the US. I didn't know that. So
961, no, it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, Greg told me that. I didn't know that. And also another interesting fun fact, actually, and I'm going to mention it. I had it written down to mention that Ryan mentioned, things that sort of got him into Porsche, the things he remembers. And of course, it was Bad Boys. Like this is not this week's owner stories, the week before. Ryan from Chicago. Bad Boys, the black turbo, which is everyone's iconic sort of 911. And then the other one was Gone in 60 Seconds. Gone in 60 Seconds, which I kind of forgot about, which was the 996 that they go into the dealer, they break out, and they steal the 996. So Greg sent me some interesting fun facts. I don't know whether you saw the link I sent you this morning, Steve, that it wasn't, the 996 at that time that movie came out wasn't available in the United States. So they made that 996 out of a converted 70s SC.
Yeah, right. I'm just looking at it.
He sent me the link. It's actually, I think it's for sale. And there's a link. I can't remember what was the site called?
It's Barrett Jackson, the auction.
Yeah, barrettjackson.com. And it's got it. Lot number 1020.2, 1978. And it's a 996, which is really weird when you look at it. 1978 Porsche 911 two-door coupe Tina. And it was basically the one that was used in... used in Gone in 60 Seconds, the film starring Nicolas Cage, Angelina Jolie, Robert Duvall. So that's it. So I thought that was an interesting fun fact.
Looking at a picture of it, I can't quite... You can tell that something's not quite right. It's sort of like
I think it sits a bit higher. I think Greg was saying you can see it because it actually sits a little higher as well.
Yeah.
But it's
sort
weird.
of like you can tell like when a 70s Carrera has sort of, like they used to put like 993 body kits on like 70s and 80s 911s to kind of try to update them. And you can just sort of tell that it looked kind of good, but there was something just really not quite right about it. And this has that look about it.
Yeah.
I can't quite put my eye on what it
I
is.
I watched the clip actually because I'd kind of forgotten about the clip. And when Ryan mentioned it to me after I finished the podcast, I think a couple of days later, I went on to YouTube and I found the clip and I watched it. And after I watched it, I thought it was a 996. And then, the episode came out and Greg sent me that message. It was like, really? And then you look at it again, you think, oh yeah, it kind of doesn't look 100%. There's something a bit weird, isn't it? It's just, when you know it, you can see it. When you know it, you can see it.
Looks a bit wonky. Looks like the German dude on the production line had a few too many beers that day.
But, we've got to have the 996 in the movie. It's really important. Oh, they're not out yet. We'll just make one that looks like a 996. Yeah. Why wouldn't you just use it like something else,
Product placement.
I know.
Yeah.
What else, mate? What else? We're going to get into... So we're going to talk about what we think of special edition Porsches, anniversary edition Porsches, actually.
Yeah, let's just get into it.
We want to get straight into it. I just want to talk quickly, though, about that video that I sent you, because it made me feel like joy inside when I watched it the other night, and I sent it to you thinking you will feel the same way I do. Because we both love...
I'm trying to work out which one you're talking about.
We both love a clean car. And there's a video on Ammo New York City, check it out on YouTube, where he's bought a Macan, Larry's bought a Macan, and it hasn't been washed in 1 year. One, I wanted to send it to Steve because I think Steve would just be purely disgusted with how an owner couldn't wash their car for 12 months. And then he cleans
he's a detailer.
And then he details it, to the nth degree, takes the wheels off, he like toothbrushing it. It's very satisfying. If you haven't seen it, watch it. If you like seeing a car become clean, watch it. It's a very satisfying video.
There is something, I don't know, I think they kind of joke about it on Smoking Tire too when they talk to him, like just, there's something just very appealing for all of us to kind of watch a car that started out dirty but then sort of looks almost brand new. I don't know, it's just kind of weird. I don't know, is that like sort of triggering OCD in all of us?
A little bit. I like that one though because it's not like a barn find where it's just been, it's just basically been driven and just not washed. It's like the car in Bahrain, it just never gets washed. Like that Audi that I had in Bahrain, where the paint and you put your hand over it and there's no more clear coat. It's just rough.
It is funny because like I remember like when I first met my wife. I used to kind of go over and just for something to do, I'd kind of go and wash her car or like one of the family kind of cars. And it's like, you could pretty much tell that they'd never ever been kind of washed. And it's sort of like a bit of a challenge to sort of take a car that sort of isn't cared for like the way that, enthusiasts would, to sort of see if you can get it back up to scratch.
But I don't think I'd want to do it full time though. Yeah. I don't think I want to do it as a job, though. I think it'd be very backbreaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was about to say the back pain would be just horrendous.
Yeah.
And you notice that Larry Casilla is always smart enough to kind of wear masks and everything because of all those sort of coatings and chemicals that he uses. True.
So this year, Steve, as we know, and it's been in the press because of the new edition, is the 25th anniversary of the Boxster. I can't believe it's 25 years. I remember when I saw my first Boxster. Actually, it was in Elizabeth Bay in Sydney. I was living in Elizabeth Bay, and one went past. One went past in silver, and I think it was just a standard one. And I remember,
yes, it was silver.
Yeah, and I remember looking at it, thinking, that is so wide. Like the back of that car is so wide. What is that car? That looks so cool. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's my first impression of it. I remember seeing it and thinking, wow, that's a really cool looking car. And then you started to see a lot around Sydney. They were quite popular. They were popping up everywhere. So what was that, 97 or something? 97, 98?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's the 25th anniversary of Boxster. They brought out that new edition. I think we might have mentioned, did we mention it? The Boxster 25th anniversary edition, which, Steve and I think looks pretty good. Celebrating the original, Boxster, the original concept, right? Ish. It's the silver, GT silver. It's got gold, bronze details.
Which is the thing I really liked about the show car. So it's sort of the car that they unveiled at, can't remember which motor show it was amazing. Like that original Boxster show car with the kind of exhaust. Was that an exhaust bit that was down the side of the car, like down near the sill? And it had the sort of little goldish, bronzish, it's got a funny name, details and everything. That thing looked amazing. The actual production car didn't translate quite as nicely, which was slightly unfortunate, but it still was a great car.
No, it didn't translate as well. But that's weird for Porsche, don't you think? Sorry, Steve, just interrupt for a second. Because you look at the Mission E and the Taycan, from concept, was Mission E, wasn't it? The Taycan's...
Yep.
It's pretty close. Like, it looks
pretty
close.
Because you're talking 25 years ago, like what was released at a similar time? SLK? Merc SLK, the very
TT,
first,
wasn't it? Was it
TT
TT time?
TT was around that time. I think a lot of those cars didn't quite translate from the show car to the production car. So I think a lot of the manufacturers got slammed a little bit. I remember reading that type of thing in the press. Not slammed, but so I think manufacturers kind of cottoned on to the fact that it was almost like a bit more of a badge of honor that if your production car looks a lot more like your show car, like the latest Z car, the Nissan Z car.
Yeah.
That's sort of been released. There's a lot of talk about that kind of thing, and I think they've just gotten a bit smarter about trying to make sure that what they then release to the public actually looks like the thing they sort of make a bit of a song and dance about.
I think the problem, I mean, you and I have spoken about this off recording, but the problem is that it's good to celebrate the Boxster. It is 25 years, and Porsche like to celebrate various milestones, and they bring out editions for those milestones. I guess and I'm speaking for you, we're not huge fans of these editions. I'm not a huge fan of these editions that Porsche brings out. I know they have a special badge and they have special, different styling tweaks and things like that. In general, there are a couple that I like. And I think there's one in the Boxster that I like in particular. I don't know how many of these special edition Boxsters have come out, Steve, but I do. I mean, I know of three so far during the Boxster's lifetime that we both, both are aware of. The first one being
probably more than that. Yeah,
there's probably been more than that. But these anniversary editions, there was the one in 2004, which was the Boxster S550 Spider 50th anniversary. I quite liked that one. I think it was about $190,000 in Australia. I think there was about 1,953 units were produced worldwide, but it was about $190,000 in Australia. I think this new Boxster for the 25th anniversary, I think it's the same, around about the same price. I think it's almost $200,000, $190,000. They're not cheap. It's not cheap for a Boxster.
Yeah, I mean, absolute sort of basic rule of thumb seems to be like they take an S model, or I guess these days, because now there's a GTS model, it's almost like they take a GTS and they kind of give it a special kind of color, some different wheels with some interesting details, the obligatory kind of plaque that tells you that you've kind of got, the 53rd out of the 1953 kind of production models.
Yeah.
I don't know. I sort of tend to kind of look at it a little bit cynically and kind of go, oh, it's a bit of a marketing type of thing just to sell cars, which, is understandable. Like, they're there to sell cars. But I guess maybe like if you were in the market, like if you were going to go, I've got money to burn, I want to buy a Boxster and I want to buy a brand new one. And then it just so happens that the 25th anniversary thing was there. It's like, oh, okay, well, if you like the color and all of that sort of stuff, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I guess.
But would I specifically go to buy one with the view of speculating that it might be worth something in 10, 20 years? I don't reckon, but that's just me.
See, I think you got to look at the history of the prices of these cars. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they sell more than a Boxster. Boxster S of the same period, but sometimes not a lot more, not that much more. I mean, like I said, the 2004 Boxster S 550 Spider Edition, the one from 2004, I saw one advertised in Queensland, and I've mentioned it in the previous podcast. It was 40,000 Australian dollars. In the UK, I think they're about 20,000 pounds or something. I saw a couple advertised at 20,000 pounds. There's a guy in Australia just listed one now. He wants 80,000 Australian dollars for it. Then that other edition, see, what I worry about with these, in the Boxster in particular, and we'll get onto the 911, but because of the Boxster, there are previous editions, so you can see how the prices have settled. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're not really an appreciating asset. I mean, maybe in another 20 years they might be. But,
it's a common thing in luxury goods. Like, it's a bit of marketing sort of ploy, because it's sort of, how do you explain it? It's like false kind of, or engineered scarcity sort of thing.
Yeah.
It happens heaps with watches as well, where, like Hublot or whoever kind of bring out a watch and they tell you that, there's only like 150 of them, but then, like the next year they kind of release something which is only slightly different, and then there's like another 250 of them. So
Panerai was at fault of doing that, where they'd have a special edition and then they make it a normal edition, and people would get really, really annoyed that it was almost the same as the special edition.
Yeah, and look, the psychology of it is that it's sort of trying to make you feel special because you've kind of got something that's rare. Like, that's why it's sort of this scarcity thing that's supposed to kind of drive your desire and make you think that it's worth more and all of that. But it's not really quite the same as, however many Carrera GTs they made, or, the 600 997 4 litres RSs. Like, it's the car's not sort of truly special like those sorts of things.
It's hard to be negative in a way, because when you think, there's 1,953 units, say, for the 2004 one. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not very many worldwide. So it is quite rare. Yeah. But then it's a common model, which is the Boxster S. You know what I mean? So it's difficult. I mean, like you said,
but what are you getting?
It's scarcity. It's scarcity.
Yeah, in terms of driving experience, you could kind of go and get a Boxster S that's probably very similar, and it will pretty much drive the same. Whereas you can't get, something like a 4-liter 997 GT3 RS, or you can't get like something akin to a Carrera GT. So that's the bit where I think it's a bit, look, not sort of smashing it kind of thing, but I'm a little bit less enthused about that type of thing.
They just have to be really careful, don't they? They don't dilute it, because it'd be interesting to see the sales of this one. I mean, this one, I guess, is special because it is 20th anniversary, right? The other ones were anniversaries of a model, like the 50th anniversary of the Spider. There was that other model, the RS60 Spider one, which was something to do with the RS60 Spider Racer or something, the 1960, Sebring winner or whatever it was. That was another one that they brought out in the Boxster. Then they had that one in the US, which I didn't even know about, Steve. The one in the US, which was just orange, which was the Boxster, which was the RS orange color. I didn't actually know about that car until I read about it yesterday. I think that's just because the 997.1 GT3 RS came out in orange, and it was such a cool color that it's just like, let's kind of release a Boxster that is in the same sort of that color is literally just called orange. Yeah, and the article I read, it said it was shown at the New York Auto Show, and it attracted so much interest that Porsche basically made 500 of them. 250 in the base model and 250 in the S model. It wasn't just an S model. It was actually just the orange paint job, basically. Oh, I think it had revised. It had body. Some of the body was a bit different. I think it had a better, more aggressive sort of front lip, and it had a different spoiler at the rear.
That's what is so clever about kind of Porsches, particularly in 996 days, where like the Boxster front end and the 996 front end was similar. So they could literally kind of go and grab the turbo front bumper with the bigger sort of air intakes and the deeper kind of bits, and then they could basically take a bit off the 911, like the 996, and then bolt it to a Boxster, and it would sort of make it look and feel a little bit more special. But really it was just sort of something that they kind of had off the shelf that they could kind of stitch together.
Yeah, true. But going back to your point about would you buy something else instead? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. If I was looking for a Boxster at the moment, I don't think I'd buy the 25th anniversary. I can appreciate it. I think it looks quite nice. I think they've done an okay job on it. I would still get a Spider. I would still either get the, just the 4-liter GTS. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
I would too.
I would go in that direction. I think those cars will appreciate more than a 25th anniversary model. I don't know why. I think the Boxster Spider is going to be one of those cars in years to come. Even the previous model, Steve, I think it's going to be one of those cars in years to come. You go, I should have bought them when they were that low, because I think it will actually go up in price.
Yeah, I sent you that link to that one recently in Australia that's just under 200. That silver with the red interior.
If you're listening from Australia and you want a Boxster Spider, if you want a Boxster Spider, the one that Steve sent me, which is on car sales, 199,000 Australian dollars, is really, really nice.
11,000 That looks great.
Yeah.
Looks that'd be a mad car to own.
Yeah, and so well optioned.
Yep.
It's a great one. It's got the red and black interior, the Spider interior. It's really, really nice. To me, that's what I would buy, one of those over a special edition. So,
well, this 25th anniversary thing too. I mean, look, it's aesthetic stuff. It's a subjective thing. I'm not a big. I really like the kind of mixture of silver and kind of gold detailing. But I'm not a big fan of the wheels.
Yeah. Maybe I should get my Lobsters painted in gold and have gold wheels.
Yeah, but it's not gold, is it? It's sort of like a bronze gold.
Yeah, it is. Or white. Maybe I'll do white wheels, white painted wheels. White painted Lobsters.
Yeah, do it. Body coloured.
But this is the thing, okay? So we're talking about Boxster, special editions, anniversary editions, all these things that come out. I mean, like I said, there's 3 of those Boxsters. There's also all the Black Series. I thought the Black Series were only available in Australia. Steve tells me that they're available worldwide. But the Black Series Boxsters...
somebody correct us if we're wrong. There was that Black Edition. I mean...
Black Edition.
Again, yeah. I can't... I remember when they kind of came out, and the one thing that I sort of thought when I saw they were advertising and doing all the kind of press releases for it was like, I actually don't mind. It had sort of... Was it matte black decals, whatever, on a gloss black kind of paintwork, and the overall effect was like, oh, that's quite cool. I don't mind that.
It is pretty cool.
But
it is pretty cool. I mean,
that was the most memorable thing about that car.
Yeah, I remember we went to that concourse day in Homebush that time, and there was a Black Series Boxster on display.
Was there? I don't remember that.
Yeah, there was a Black Series Boxster on display. We walked past it, and it was pretty cool. It was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know I don't think they hold value. I don't think they're that expensive when they come up for sale. But the thing is, though, the Boxster Special Editions, what do you think Porsche does better? Let's just talk about a few of the 911 ones, actually, because we're going to talk about, these Special Editions. Are they really that special in a way? Mm-hmm. And, I don't think, don't buy one if you think you're going to make a lot of money in the future because it's going to take a long time, I think, before you're going to get a lot of money back. And don't forget...
Yeah, buy it if you like. Just
buy it if you like it.
The colour of it and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
Like we talked quite a few podcasts ago about that reimagined Australian edition, that 99... Is that a 991 or 992? 991?
Yeah.
No, 992.
Yeah, we're not a fan of that either.
They couldn't even get the colour right.
No, the colour was wrong.
Like the original car was stone grey, and then they couldn't even be bothered, so they made it crayon. It's like,
I know. They could have just done stone grey, paint a sample, and they didn't bother to do that. That was a bit weak. That was a bit weak, that
bit
one.
on the nose.
But, let's just go through a couple of the 911 special editions, anniversary editions. There could be more. Like I said, we're not experts. We're just enthusiasts here. So there could be more. So don't tell me I've missed out on one, because I possibly have missed one. But the ones of note to us, first one is the G Series, the 3.2 Carrera one that came out in 1989, which was the 25th anniversary 911, Steve. I noticed there was one for sale on Road Scholars. It could have been an old one. It was a cabriolet. I don't know whether it came in a coupe as well, did it? Or was it just a cabriolet?
No idea. I wasn't actually that familiar with that one.
Yeah, so the 911s, you have a few choices. And I think 911 anniversary models have kept their value, have increased in value a little bit, except for one, which I don't think it has. I mean, I'm not sure how much more over retail there were than normal prices. I don't really have the prices, so I don't know. But I think maybe they are keeping a little bit more value. But the 25th year of the 911, they did a farewell to the 3.2 litre Carrera Flat 6. They released, they released 300 coupes and 200 cabriolets, special anniversary edition 911s. The one at Road Scholars was a cab. I think the options
was
they
there
had...
a premium on it? Could you tell?
What was that?
Is there a premium on the price? Can you tell? Compared
I don't know. I have to open the link. I haven't opened the link.
It's okay.
Anyway, it was on Road Scholars. Go and have a look at Road Scholars if you're listening. But it was silk grey leather interior, black accents, colour to match, Fuchs wheels, leather upholstered center console, outside air temperature gauge, short shifter, and anniversary badging. So pretty much what they're doing now. Porsche hasn't really changed the way they do these anniversary models. This one I don't think it was even upped in power. It just had basically cosmetic upgrade, Steve. That was it.
Yep.
So that was I guess the first one of note. The next one was the one in 1993. The one in 1993 I actually quite like. That was the 911.
I think
the
most
30th,
people do.
Yeah, the 30th anniversary Juby model, which is quite sought after now, and this one has appreciated a lot, hasn't it? Viola metallic, which looks purple, the grey interior. So it's a 964 30th anniversary edition. I haven't seen any come up for sale in Australia. Have you?
I had a quick look because I was just trying to get my head around these special editions, and I noticed the search kind of came up. One sold at Classic Throttle Shop for 180 grand. I don't know how many years ago that was. So that's a pretty kind of fair premium. I remember when I had my 964, my first 911, and I kind of lost it after that. But I think part of that was because it had the turbo body on it, so it basically had the kind of the wide flared wheel arches, which are really kind of noticeable in the 964. I thought in Australia that they had only sold that in in tip, but then I kind of just dug around a little bit more, and it was a manual as well. So
Oh, really?
That would
Wow. Wonder what they would go for now. Because
well, that one at Throttle Shop was 100. That was a manual as well.
okay, but you said that one at Throttle Shop that you saw, it must have been an older listing for 190,000.
180,000. It was sold a while ago. It just,
Auto. Yeah. You saw the Carrera 4 in black for sale at Autohouse Hamilton for $179,000 Australian dollars.
No.
They've got a Carrera 4.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I did.
Yeah, they've got a Carrera 4 listed for $179,000. I think it's just crazy. That's just crazy money. I'm sorry.
It's just what's happening with values, isn't it?
You know?
Like, I don't know, 964s, like, they're so popular now.
They are. But the Juby model, like Steve said, was really, really cool because it did have the wide turbo body. It was a Carrera 4, though. But it had that turbo body. It didn't have the big wing on the back, right? It didn't have any...
No,
it didn't have
I think from memory, somebody will kind of sing out and kind of correct us, or somebody will be shaking their head listening to this, but I think it was that 964 anniversary model was the precursor. That's kind of what invented, like then in the 993, when you went to the 4S and the rear-wheel drive S model with the wide body kit but no four-wheel drive.
Right.
That's sort of what invented that kind of look.
It sort of led on to that in the 993, which is why the Carrera S and the 993 is so sought after, right? Because of the...
Yeah. And because it's sort of towards the end of the lifespan of that car, because that was released in, 98, was it? Something like that.
Yeah. Well, the Jubilee model was 2 model years, 1993 and 1994. And I guess why it's so sought after today is they only did 911 vehicles over the cab and the coupe.
It essentially is the turbo look, but without having turbos and like four-wheel drive and all that sort of thing.
Which everyone
so that's
likes.
What kind of made it more,
don't they? It's that wide body thing that's always attractive.
Yeah.
But they did that a little bit. So going on to the next one, then they kind of did this on the 996 because the next one that came up was the 40th anniversary. And the 40th anniversary was in 2003. I think it was a 2004 model year maybe, but it was 2003 it was launched. It was the 996 Carrera 40th Anniversary Edition Coupe, GT Silver Metallic. It celebrated 40 years of the 911. It was sold in 2003, 2004. They made 1,963 of those, so higher than the one before, which was only 911. Obviously, that was the year the 911 was introduced. I think there was about 200 came to the UK from one of the articles I read. So in the UK, they didn't get that many. I'm guessing Australia probably got less than that. It was done in GT Silver Metallic. The guy on YouTube, Sam from Seen Through Glasses, just bought one, actually. He's actually just bought one. But it was Carrera GT. It was used in the GT Silver, which was only in the Carrera GT supercar at the time. So it was actually quite a special color to have in a 996. And the best thing about that 996 anniversary model is it had that X51 power pack, Steve, as you know, is pretty special.
Yeah.
That one is kind of appealing. Like when I see it, it's quite good. I know a lot of people have had to change the wheels and had the wheels repainted over the years.
I was about to say, because it's got those horrible chrome looking, which is a very sort of 90s kind of thing. Or
they were chrome wheels, and apparently people would damage them quite easily. And then a lot of the models, a lot of the examples for sale today don't have those wheels. They don't have those wheels. People have resprayed them.
See, that's sort of what I mean. Like, if you're into kind of chrome wheels and you were in the market, then it's like, yeah, that's a car for you. But say if it's me, like I hate chrome wheels, so like I just couldn't cope with that. And it would seem weird to kind of necessarily buy a car that had that option just for the sake of the fact that it's a limited edition thing, but I actually can't stand some of the detail in it.
I think I don't mind this edition. I don't mind it. You know what I mean? The wheels, like you said, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I think it's one that is going to go a little bit crazy. I think it's under the radar still at the moment. I don't know if I haven't seen any come up for sale in Australia in this model, I don't think. Have you?
Yeah, I thought I did spot one maybe.
UK, there's a couple for sale still. But I think the most appealing thing, we'll come back onto this again, that X51 power pack, and this is in the article that I read. It took the engine from 345 horsepower to which was 25 horsepower more than the standard, and it was second only to the GT3 in terms of naturally aspirated 996 power. So, that alone had sports suspension, it had limited slip diff, I think, didn't it? I'm pretty sure it did,
yes.
LSD. Had those polished 18-inch Carrera 2 lightweight wheels, which I love or hate.
Yep.
And then it had, that's right, this is what I was getting to. It had the front air intakes from the turbo. It had the turbo front.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It had, actually, it was a part spin in a way. It had the GT3 turbo, it had the turbo front, Steve. Apparently it had the GT3 side sills.
Yep.
So that all came together. And then sports suspension and the X51 power pack. When you think about that 996, it's not bad, the package. It doesn't look bad. For one of those examples. It's probably one of the better ones. To me, that's one of the picks out of the 911. And the other one...
Well, I suppose with this one at least, the engine sort of package is at least a sort of discernible kind of improvement as opposed to it just kind of being purely cosmetic. Like I know when you read about Jethro Bovingdon's 996, that's sort of like a bit of a Bitzer kind of thing. I think he recently said that... in redoing that car, he's getting an X51 engine put in it, and I think he was sort of saying that they're really kind of rare now. They're really, really hard to kind of come by, those engines.
Oh, right. Right.
And that from his, super motoring journo, kind of in his wisdom, that it actually is sort of like a significantly better engine, apparently.
I saw a 996 advertised, actually, in Australia that had the X51
Yeah, I remember.
option.
I remember, I think
Blue with the really
sort of
full-on wide wheels, those with the bolts, those wheels. There was one for sale. It's gone now. It's gone now.
It's a pretty expensive option to kind of get, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I did miss out one edition because, I just think it's really ugly. I'm sorry, I think it was a mistake. Was the one that they brought out in 2000, which was that the Millennium Edition. Like the world's going to change in 2000 or something. They brought out that Millennium Edition in 2000. I think it had tan interior and it was was it purple? I think it was purple, wasn't it? Violet.
I can't remember.
That was pretty awful. That was pretty awful. I think that was a mistake, that one. So then, so I don't know. Is 911 other special editions, anniversary editions in 911 better than the Boxster, Steve, you think? Or they're about comparable?
I don't know, it depends.
The same, right? There's not a lot of difference.
Yeah, it's about the same. Like the last one was the 50th anniversary, the 991. It was in Geyser Grey. It's got a plaque in it. It's got the wide body again.
I like this one.
Things.
I don't think you do you? I actually like this one.
I like the color. I like the color of it.
I like a lot of things in this car. I do like obviously I like the interior. I mean, I noticed there was one for sale in Australia in a place in Melbourne, a Porsche den, and didn't even have, I think it was Porsche den, didn't have the Pepita. Someone had optioned it without the Pepita. I don't know why you would do that when it's part of the special edition, and that's what's one of the nice things about it. I think it was a brown interior, wasn't it, originally? I think the standard was brown, Pepita, and then the the crayon type color and the grey.
Yep.
The darker grey. Yep. The other thing I found was interesting with that model, apparently it also came in black. It's very weird when you look at Porsche's website and it has the news report about it. It said it came in 2 colors only, and then it said it was also available in black. It's like, okay.
But that seems to be a running theme because that's even the 964 30th anniversary was like that as well. Like there was the option for black as well. So I guess they're just kind of going, hey, we'll kind of give you this sort of more overt special color, but if you don't like that, then how about black?
But true. I don't think this one had any up in power. See, the only one that seemed to have a significant up in power was the 996 anniversary edition. I mean, this one had the Carrera, is a Carrera based on the Carrera S. It had, PASM as standard. It said it had special tuning, but they didn't really say what sort of special tuning. I think it was more to do with suspension and the setup of the suspension, wasn't it? I think had a sports exhaust, which they always add onto these editions. It had special wheels, which they always add onto this edition. This one were like harking back to the Fuchs.
Yep.
What else? And then it had, better lights, I think, and that's about it. So I guess you're getting options, which I guess if you added those options up separately, they'd be more expensive. So you're kind of getting them packaged and they're a little bit cheaper, I would say.
Yeah. So in a weird sort of way, it's not too dissimilar. Like if you were to kind of walk into a Porsche showroom and you kind of go, what's on a GTS, and the salesman kind of rattles off all the kind of extra bits and pieces on it, and you go, effectively that's sort of like a S, but it's probably got the pick of the kind of options. So if you were going to go and get like an S and pick at all those bits and pieces, and it sort of effectively wound up kind of being a GTS, then you may as well just kind of get it.
True. And I guess, and in this list, we have actually missed out, one generation. And I kind of missed them out because I don't feel like they're in the same group as this, Steve. And that's the ones in the 997. The 9, and we haven't talked about speedsters. I don't see speedsters as the same grouping as these ones, because these are like anniversary editions or to do with racing. Of course, there's speedsters, that are brought out.
Speedster's kind of different.
Speedster's different. But then there is the Sport Classic in the 997. I wasn't sure whether the Sport
Different
Classic
as well.
should go in that, but I think the Sport Classic is different as well, right? It's not an anniversary edition. It's not a racing edition.
I'll tell you why they're different.
Okay.
Because like the Sports Classic had the double bubble roof kind of thing. So like there's significant kind of changes to, like the car, like the interior wasn't just sort of like a different kind of leather. It was like, they did like quite a few different things that they hadn't done before, because that was sort of like an exclusive, that was done by the exclusive department, wasn't it?
Yeah. And that's what I grouped
a speedster. Yeah. Sorry, like a speedster, like whether it's a 964, 993, 997 or 991, that's not just sort of like a convertible, a cabrio with, different paint kind of colors and different wheels. Like that's like significant. Like the original ones had like the shorter windscreen, and it had the kind of
true.
The thing over the kind of the, what do you call it? The convertible cover. The cover.
Yeah.
Like the double bubble kind of thing again. All those sorts of things. So that's that's not just sort of like a like a cosmetic thing. Like they were quite different. And
true.
Again,
and those ones are
low
pretty
numbers.
special. They're pretty
They
special.
are
The
special,
speedsters, the Sport Classic, even GT3 RS 4.0. These editions are not the same as what we're talking about. These are the ones we don't think, in my opinion, I don't think they're that special. I would probably not buy one. Like I said, I do like the 2013 model. I think the 996 one is good because it's got the X51. The Boxsters, the Boxsters, I'm not 100% sure I would get one. If one was really cheap used, maybe, Steve. Like I said, that one that came up, if it was very, very cheap, if it was the same price as an S or a little bit more, maybe.
If all of a sudden I had budget to go and buy a used Boxster, and like a special edition one kind of came up, and it was a tiny bit more than like a normal Boxster S, and I was in the market, like I wouldn't say no to it.
No.
I just wouldn't kind of go out of my way to kind of seek it and think that it would make me rich one day.
No, because you are paying a higher premium. You are paying more for this. Like the 25th anniversary one in Australia, like I said, I think it's 180,000. You're paying more.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you sell it, you'll get a bit more, but you're also paying a lot more. It is a Boxster S, so you are paying more for it. I don't know what the standard price of a Boxster S is these days. I don't even know. Maybe they are 200,000.
No, I don't know either.
That's the thing. I don't know. I'm thinking they're much cheaper, but they're sort of like where the 911 used to be 200,000 Australian is now 300,000, and so the Boxster slipped into that $200,000 spot. We haven't mentioned. You know what we haven't mentioned? We haven't mentioned the club versions. There are also those club versions they did. They did one for Porsche Club of America, didn't they? The green one. There was another club version, I think, done for someone else as well. There have been a couple of...
That other North American one that had the sort of Brumos livery, like the white with the blue and the red kind of panels across it.
Yeah.
There was those ones... like recently, the Belgian edition that sort of celebrated Jackie X, which is a nice colour.
That's right. That one was nice, the Jackie. But they are special. I think those ones are special, don't you? But they're very small numbers. Aren't they like 25 or 30? They're like very, very small numbers.
But you could argue that it really is, a couple of plaques and a special colour and maybe a different set of wheels.
Yeah. If you want a special edition, you should have bought we should have bought the Sport Classic. We should have bought the GT3 RS 4.0. We should have bought the new Speedster, the 991 Speedster, the GT2 RS, 991.2 GT2 RS. They're cars that are just going to go crazy. You know what I mean?
I really like the most recent Speedster.
I love it.
Do most people say that it's good? Like, does Spike and Zuckerman, or I sensed a little bit of cynicism from one of them.
They didn't like the touring though, did they? They got rid of the touring, right? They didn't think much of it.
Yeah, I found that a little bit interesting.
Yeah, I remember they said that.
A bit surprising, but
I don't know. But I love that Speedster. I would have got it in the Heritage Pack as well. I would have gone all out. I would have done the Heritage Pack.
Yeah, don't mind the Heritage Pack.
Yep, I would have just done it. You know what I mean? Maybe no number on the side. You could have chosen the number on the side. They gave you the choice. Maybe just the white donut or whatever you call it. No number.
Gumball.
Yeah, gumball. No number. But that's a beautiful car. But there's still high 700s in Australia, mate. You know. Wow. You know what has come down though? The GT2 RS. I saw one. They were up at $800,000 odd in Australia. I think I saw one the other day. It was $599.
Well, you should get one then.
Yeah, I was thinking about you actually. Then I could buy you. Then I'll take your car.
Yeah, okay. It'll only cost you.
Anyway,
$600,000.
Yes, exactly. Special editions. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know through Instagram if you want on PorscheCooled. Follow PorscheCooled if you haven't been to it already. But the not so special editions, I guess. Are the special editions really that special, Steve?
Don't know.
I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. You know what I mean? It really is. There's obviously a market for it. People Porsche keep doing it. They've done it for like a long time now, and they keep doing it out. Unless they just like to celebrate it.
They're not the only ones too. They're not the only ones. Like you can get special edition MX-5s, watches, shoes,
true.
Everything. Everything's a special edition until it's
Ferrari
not
does
so
it.
special anymore.
Ferrari does it. Everyone does it.
Yep.
Maybe that's the problem. Everyone does it. But I think if you're looking for a special edition Porsche, don't look at the ones that say they're a special edition. Look at the model that you like. That model you like will eventually turn into something very, very special.
Nice.
All right. That's it for today. Steve, anything else before we go? We're over time. We're at hour 15. We've talked too much today.
No, all good. I've mumbled enough.
So, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, Steve, I just want to thank everyone for supporting the podcast. 70 episodes. Like I said, we couldn't have done it. Steve and I couldn't have kept talking without you guys supporting us. Sometimes, like I said, I don't know how we got here, but we're here. We're at 70. Let's see if we can get to 80. Hopefully we can keep going, but we're eventually going to run out of steam, I think.
Don't say that,
Steve.
Mate. Actually, you could consider this the 70th special edition episode podcast thing.
Yep.
There you go. Makes it more special.
This is the 70th edition PorscheCooled Podcast. That's it. Never to be done again. Never to be seen again.
Never.
Only appreciating in value over the years. You listen to this podcast in 5 years' time, and it'll just mean so much more than it does now.
Yeah, it's so much more valuable than the 71st podcast or the 69th.
Yep. All right. That's it. See you, mate.
Cool. Cheers, man.
See you. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening to the PorscheCooled Podcast. Like I said, that was Steve from Sydney. My name is Michael Barth. If you haven't followed us on Instagram, follow PorscheCooled on Instagram. If you want to contact me about anything, if you want to be on Owner Stories, just send me a message through that Instagram. That's the best way to get a hold of me. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.